Chapter 1. I always loved the quiet hours, the ones when Ember Lane felt like it was holding its breath. The fog rolled in early that evening, soft and silver, pressing its cool face against the windows of my little candle shop. Inside, everything glowed warm and honey gold, the air thick with the scent of lavender, bergamot, and melting beeswax. It was the kind of night that made me feel tucked away from the world, wrapped in my own light. I stood at my work table, smoothing the surface of a cooling candle with the flat of my thumb. My skin, deep and warm like polished mahogany, caught the flicker of the flame beside me. I'd always liked the way candle-light softened everything, even me. It made the loneliness feel gentler somehow, like a companion instead of a weight. I trimmed a wick, humming under my breath, letting the rhythm of my work settle me. This was my ritual, my sanctuary. A flicker in the corner of my eye made me pause. I turned my head slowly, expecting to see a moth tapping at the glass or a stray draft teasing the flame. But nothing had moved. Everything sat exactly where it should be, shelves lined with jars, bundles of dried herbs hanging from the rafters, the old cash register perched like a relic on the counter. Long day, I whispered to myself, shaking my head. I went back to pouring wax, the liquid gold sliding into its mold with a soft, satisfying sound. But then it happened again, a shift, a ripple, like something sliding just out of sight. This time I froze completely. My heart thudded once, hard. I looked down at the floor, at the long stretch of my shadow, cast by the candles behind me. It wasn't still. It moved just a fraction, just enough to make my breath catch. My hand hovered over the mold, wax dripping onto the table as I stared. My shadow's arm lagged behind mine by a beat, like it was remembering the motion a moment too late. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no. I'm tired, that's all." I stepped to the side. My shadow followed, but not quite right. It stretched a little too far, bending at an angle that didn't match my body. A cold draft swept through the shop, raising goosebumps along my arms. I glanced toward the windows, all closed. The door was locked. Nothing should have been moving. Okay. I breathed, pressing a hand to my chest. "You're imagining things. You need sleep." But the candles disagreed. Their flames leaned toward my shadow, drawn to it like metal to a magnet. One flame elongated, reaching out as if trying to touch the dark shape on the floor. My pulse hammered. I backed up until I hit the edge of the work table. "Stop," I whispered, as if the room might listen. The shadow didn't stop. It stretched again, long and thin, sliding behind me like a living thing. I felt the air shift, cool and electric, brushing the back of my neck. My breath trembled out of me, uneven and shaky. I swallowed hard and forced myself to move. One by one, I blew out the candles. Each flame vanished with a soft sigh, plunging the shop deeper into darkness. The last candle flickered stubbornly, its flame dancing wildly before it finally surrendered. For a heartbeat, the room was silent. Then my shadow, impossibly long, impossibly wrong, stretched across the floor behind me, reaching farther than any light source should have allowed. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just stared at the darkness that was supposed to be mine and knew, with a cold certainty, that something had changed. Something had begun. Chapter 2. I didn't sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that impossible stretch of darkness crawling across my shop floor. By morning, I'd convinced myself it had been a trick of the light, or maybe the fog outside playing games with my tired brain. But when I unlocked the shop and stepped inside, the air felt different, charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. I tried to shake it off. I tied my apron around my waist, rolled up my sleeves, and set to work pouring a fresh batch of wax. The familiar motion steadied me. Stir, pour, breathe. Stir, pour, breathe. The scent of warm honey and vanilla wrapped around me like a blanket. Then, as I reached for a jar of essential oil, something shifted behind me. I froze. Slowly, I turned my head. My shadow peeled itself off the floor. It rose upward, stretching, thickening, taking shape. A tall, elegant silhouette made of darkness and soft silver light. My breath caught in my throat. The jar slipped from my fingers and shattered on the floor, the scent of jasmine exploding into the air. "What?" My voice cracked. "What are you?" The figure stepped forward, and the shadows around him rippled like fabric in a breeze. He wasn't just a shape anymore. He had shoulders, a jawline, the faint suggestion of eyes glowing like embers in a dying fire. He bowed his head slightly, like a gentleman greeting someone at a ballroom instead of a terrified candle-maker in a tiny shop. "My name is Dexter," he said, his voice low and smooth, like velvet dragged through smoke. "Prince of the Shadow Kingdom." I stared at him, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. "Prince," I repeated, because my brain refused to process anything else. "Shadow Kingdom, right." He tilted his head, studying me with those strange, luminous eyes. "You summoned me." "I did not," I said, backing up until my hip hit the work table. "I didn't summon anything. You lit a royal candle," he said gently, as if explaining something obvious to a frightened child. "A candle that binds your shadow to mine." I shook my head. "I make candles, that's all. I don't summon princes, or shadows, or whatever you are." He lifted his hand, and for a moment I thought he might touch me. Instead, he gestured toward the far corner of the room. A single candle sat there, one I didn't remember placing. Its flame burned with a strange black-blue core, flickering like a heartbeat. "That," he said softly, "is the royal candle." My stomach dropped. "I didn't make that." "You did," he said. "You just didn't know what you were making." I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. "Why are you here?" "Because the candle called me," he said. "And because I am bound to you now." Bound. The word wrapped around me like a cold chain. "I don't want you bound to me," I whispered. His expression softened, shadows shifting like sighs around him. "I mean you no harm, Mandy." Hearing my name in that voice sent a shiver down my spine. "I will explain everything," he promised, in time. I didn't know whether to scream, faint, or run. Instead, I stood there, trembling, staring at a man made of darkness who claimed to be a prince. Then, as the candle behind him sputtered, his form flickered. The edges of him blurred, dissolving into smoke. "Wait." I reached out without thinking. He gave me a small, almost sad smile. "When the flame dies," he murmured, "so do I." And with a final ripple of shadow, he sank back into the darkness at my feet, disappearing completely as the candle's flame went out. I stood alone in the silence, my heart racing, the scent of jasmine still hanging in the air. But I knew, with a certainty that chilled me, that I wasn't alone anymore. Chapter 3. The next morning, I walked into the shop with my heart already beating too fast. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that shadows didn't peel themselves off floors or talk in velvet smoke voices. But the moment I stepped inside, the air shifted warm, expectant, like the room had been waiting for me. I lit a candle on the counter, more out of habit than anything else. The flame flared brighter than usual, stretching tall and thin before settling into a steady glow. I swallowed hard and lit another, and another. The shop brightened, shadows dancing along the walls. "Okay," I whispered, "let's see if I'm losing my mind." I lit the royal candle last. The flame ignited with a soft hiss, burning that strange black blue again. The shadows in the room rippled, bending toward it, and then, right in front of me, my own shadow lifted off the floor like smoke rising from a fire. Dexter formed slowly, his shape sharpening from darkness into the tall, elegant figure I'd seen the night before. His eyes glowed faintly, warm and silver, like moonlight caught in water. "You came back." I breathed before I could stop myself. He gave a small, almost shy smile. "You lit the candle." I didn't know what to say. My hands trembled as I set the lighter down. "So this is real. You're real. As real as your light allows me to be," he said softly. I stared at him, at the way the candlelight clung to the edges of his form, giving him a strange, ethereal glow. "Explain this bond," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, all of it. He nodded, stepping closer. The shadows around him shifted like a cloak. The royal candle tied our shadows together. When you lit it, you called me from my realm into yours, and you can only appear when there's candlelight. I said, glancing at the flames, "Yes." His voice softened. "Your light gives me shape. Without it, I fade." I tried to process that. "And the curse, the one you mentioned." He hesitated, then lifted his hand as if to touch mine. He stopped just short, his fingers hovering inches from my skin. I am cursed to remain a shadow until true love breaks the spell. I blinked at him. True love. I repeated, my voice flat. That's a lot. His lips curved in a faint, sad smile. I understand your skepticism. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So what now? You just hang around my shop, if you wish it, he said. I am bound to you, but I will not intrude. He moved closer, and I felt the air shift, cool, electric, almost tender. He reached out again, guiding my hand toward a jar I'd been reaching for. His touch didn't land, but I felt the suggestion of it, like a breeze brushing my skin. You're trembling, he murmured. Of course I'm trembling. I whispered, my shadow is a prince. He chuckled softly, the sound warm and strangely human. I've been watching your craft, he said. Your light is extraordinary. Heat rose to my cheeks. They're just candles. No, he said, his voice low. They are pieces of you. Warmth, intention, heart. I swallowed, my chest tightening. You're being dramatic. Perhaps. His eyes glowed brighter. But I speak the truth. I turned away, pretending to busy myself with a tray of cooling wax, but my hands shook too much to be convincing. Tell me about your kingdom, I said, needing something to ground me. He grew quiet. The shadows around him stilled. Another time, he said gently, when you are ready. I looked back at him, at the way he stood in the corner of my shop like he belonged there, like he'd always been there. And for the first time, the fear eased just a little. Later, when I went upstairs to my small apartment, I lit a single candle on my nightstand. I didn't expect anything. I didn't want to expect anything. But when I turned, Dexter was there, sitting quietly in the corner, his form soft and watchful, like a guardian maid of night. I'll keep watch, he said simply, and somehow, impossibly, I believed him. Chapter 4. The next few days passed in a strange, shimmering haze. I tried to pretend everything was normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Every time I lit a candle, I felt the air shift, like the flame was a doorway, and something waited on the other side. And every time Dexter appeared, my heart reacted before my mind could catch up, a flutter, a tightening, a warmth I didn't want to name. But that morning, something was different. I lit a candle on the counter, expecting the usual soft glow. Instead, the flame flared tall and thin, burning a deep violet at its core. I frowned, leaning closer. That's new. The wax beneath it rippled, forming a strange, swirling pattern I didn't recognize. I reached out to touch it, but the moment my finger hovered above the surface, the flame snapped sideways, bending toward my hand like it was reaching for me. I jerked back. Okay, no, absolutely not. Behind me, another candle flickered, then another. Their flames stretched toward me, all leaning in the same direction, like flowers turning toward the sun. Except I wasn't the sun. I swallowed hard. Dexter. His voice answered before his form did, soft and low, like a whisper sliding through the room. I'm here. He rose from my shadow, unfolding into shape with a fluid grace that made my breath catch. His eyes glowed brighter than usual, silver and sharp, reflecting the strange colors dancing in the flames. What's happening? I asked, stepping back as the candles continued to flicker unnaturally. Why are they doing that? He moved closer, his expression tightening. The Shadow Kingdom is aware of you now. A chill ran down my spine. Aware of me. What does that mean? It means, he said carefully, that the bond between us is stronger than I expected, stronger than it should be. I stared at him, my pulse thudding in my ears. Stronger how? He hesitated, and that alone terrified me. Dexter never hesitated. Your light is calling to them. Them. My voice cracked. Who is them? The shadows, he said softly. My realm, my people, my throne. I shook my head. No, no, I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't summon a kingdom. You summoned me, he said gently. And I am part of that kingdom. The bond cannot be undone. I pressed a hand to my chest, trying to steady my breathing. I'm scared, Dexter. His expression softened instantly. He stepped closer, lifting a hand toward my cheek. He didn't touch me, he never touched me, but the air between us hummed, warm and electric, like his presence alone was a caress. I won't let anything harm you, he murmured, not the shadows, not the throne, not even fate itself. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting his voice settle over me like a blanket. When I opened them again, the candles were still flickering, their flames bending toward him now, drawn to his darkness as much as they were to my light. "Why me?" I whispered. "Why would the Shadow Kingdom care about me?" He looked at me with something like awe. "Because your light is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's warm, pure, alive. The shadows crave it. They always have." I shook my head, overwhelmed. "I'm just a candle maker." "No," he said, his voice deepening. "You are so much more." Before I could ask what he meant, one of the candles on the shelf suddenly extinguished itself. The flame snuffed out as if pinched by invisible fingers. Dexter reacted instantly, stepping in front of me, his form expanding, shadows swirling protectively around him. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice sharp. My heart pounded as the room fell eerily silent. The remaining flames flickered violently, casting long, trembling shadows across the walls. "Dexter," I whispered, gripping the edge of the table. "What's happening?" He didn't look back at me. "The bond is growing, and the kingdom is reaching for you." The words sent a cold shiver through me. I stared at the candles, at the shadows stretching toward my feet, at the way the air seemed to pulse with something ancient and hungry. And for the first time, I realized the truth. This wasn't just magic. This was destiny, and it was coming for me. Chapter 5. I didn't want to ask Dexter about the curse. I didn't want to know anything more about the Shadow Kingdom or the strange pull I felt every time the candles flickered in unnatural colors. But the questions pressed against me like a weight, and by the next morning I couldn't hold them back any more. I lit a candle on the counter, watching the flame settle into a steady glow. My heart thudded as Dexter rose from my shadow, unfolding into shape with that same effortless grace that made my breath catch every time. He looked different today, quieter, almost solemn. The silver in his eyes dimmed slightly, like moonlight behind clouds. "Dexter," I said softly, "I need you to tell me the truth, all of it." He didn't speak at first. Instead, he stepped closer, his form rippling with shadows that curled around him like smoke. "The truth," he repeated, as if tasting the word. "Very well." I braced myself. He lifted his gaze to mine, and something in his expression made my chest tighten. "I was meant to inherit the Shadow Throne," he said. "It is the heart of my kingdom, the source of our power, the seat of our lineage." I swallowed. "So you're not just a prince." "No," he said quietly. "I was meant to be king." The words hung between us, heavy and unreal. "But I refused the throne," he continued. "I refused its power. I refused the destiny it demanded of me." "Why?" I whispered. His jaw tightened, shadows trembling around him. "Because the throne consumes those who sit upon it. It twists them, hardens them, turns them into something cold and cruel. I feared what I would become." I stared at him, trying to imagine this elegant, gentle shadow becoming something monstrous. I couldn't. "So the throne punished you," I said slowly. "Yes." His voice dropped to a low, aching whisper. "It stripped me of my form, my strength, my place in the kingdom. It bound me to the mortal world as nothing more than a shadow." My heart clenched. "Dexter," he looked away, as if ashamed. "The only way to break the curse, or so the prophecy says, is through true love. A love strong enough to restore what was taken." I let out a shaky breath. "That's a lot of pressure." He gave a soft, humorless laugh. "You have no idea." I stepped closer, drawn to him despite everything. "Why didn't you want the throne, really?" He hesitated, then met my eyes again. "Because I wanted freedom. I wanted choice. I wanted to feel something other than duty and darkness. I wanted—" His voice faltered. "I wanted a life that was mine." The vulnerability in his words hit me like a wave. I'd never imagined a prince, even a shadow prince, could sound so human. "And now?" I asked gently. "Now," he said, his voice softening, "I envy your world, your warmth, your light, your craft." His gaze drifted to the candles cooling on the table. "You create beauty with your hands, you shape light, you give comfort. I have never known anything like that." Heat rose to my cheeks. "They're just candles." "No," he murmured, stepping closer. "They are pieces of you, and they are extraordinary." I looked down, flustered, my fingers trembling as I reached for a jar of wax. He moved behind me, guiding my hands with his own shadowy ones. He didn't touch me, he couldn't, but I felt the suggestion of his presence, warm and electric, like a breath against my skin. "Steady," he whispered. "You're shaking." "Because you're standing too close," I whispered back. He chuckled softly, the sound curling around me like smoke. "I can step away if you wish." I didn't say that. I murmured. Silence settled between us, thick and charged. I could feel him watching me, studying me, as if memorizing every movement. When I finally looked up, his expression had softened into something tender, almost reverent. "Mandy," he said quietly, "you are beginning to care for me." My breath caught. "I don't know what I'm feeling." "You don't have to," he said gently. Not yet, but I did know. I knew it in the way my heart reacted to his voice, in the way my breath hitched when he stepped close, in the way the room felt empty when he faded back into my shadow. Later, when I went upstairs to my apartment, I lit a single candle on my nightstand. I didn't expect him to appear, not really, but when I turned, he was there, sitting quietly in the corner like he had the night before, watching over me, protecting me, and for the first time I let myself admit the truth. I wanted him there. Chapter 6. The town transformed for the Lantern Festival, in a way that always made me feel like I'd stepped into a dream. Strings of glowing orbs hung from every awning, every porch, every tree branch. Warm light spilled across the cobblestones, turning the fog into a soft, golden haze. Children ran past with paper lanterns shaped like stars and moons, their laughter echoing through the streets. It was beautiful. It always was, but this year it felt different, charged, expectant. I stood outside my shop, holding a lantern of my own, the flame inside flickering gently. "You can come out," I whispered, feeling ridiculous and hopeful all at once. The lantern's glow stretched across the ground, and my shadow lengthened with it. Then, slowly, gracefully, Dexter rose from the darkness, his form sharpening into the tall, elegant silhouette I'd grown too used to seeing. But tonight he looked almost solid. The lantern light clung to him, outlining the shape of his shoulders, the curve of his jaw, the faint suggestion of a mouth that could almost smile. He looked down at himself, wonder flickering across his features. "The light," he murmured, "it strengthens me." I swallowed, my heart fluttering. I thought it might. He stepped closer, and for the first time I felt warmth radiating from him, faint, like the heat from a candle flame, but real. My breath caught. "Dexter." He lifted his hand, and this time, when he reached toward me, his fingers didn't dissolve into smoke. They hovered just above my skin, close enough that I felt the warmth of him, the promise of touch. "You look beautiful," he said softly, his voice low and reverent. I laughed nervously, brushing a curl behind my ear. "It's just a dress." "It's you," he said, his eyes glowing brighter. "You're radiant." Heat rushed to my cheeks, and I turned away, pretending to adjust the lantern. "Come on, there's more to see." We walked through the festival together, though no one else could see him. He stayed close, his presence a warm, protective shadow at my side. Lanterns floated above us like tiny suns, drifting upward into the night sky. The air smelled like cinnamon pastries and wood smoke. Music drifted from the town square, soft, lilting, romantic. Dexter watched everything with wide, fascinated eyes. "Your world is alive," he whispered, "so full of color, of warmth." I smiled. "You sound surprised." "I am," he admitted. "In my realm everything is muted, cold, still. But here," he looked at me, and something in his expression made my heart stutter. "Here I feel." We stopped beneath a canopy of lanterns, their light pooling around us like liquid gold. Dexter stepped closer, his form more solid than I'd ever seen it. His hand hovered near mine, trembling slightly, as if he were fighting the urge to take it. "Mandy," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I need to tell you something." My breath caught. "What is it?" He looked torn, shadows rippling across his form like a storm. "I'm falling for you," he said finally, the words raw and vulnerable. "But I shouldn't be. I can't be." My heart twisted. "Why not?" "Because if I love you," he said, his voice breaking, "I bind your fate to mine, and I cannot allow that." I stared at him, stunned, the lantern light reflecting in his silver eyes. "Dexter." He stepped back, the warmth fading from his form. "I won't trap you. I won't let the throne take you because of me. You're not trapping me, I whispered. I'm choosing this, I'm choosing you. He shook his head, shadows trembling violently. You don't understand what you're choosing. Before I could answer, a lantern drifted between us, its soft glow brushing his form. He looked up at it, his expression aching, then back at me. I want to touch you, he said quietly, more than anything, but if I do, I won't be able to stop myself from wanting more. My breath trembled. Dexter, he stepped back again, his form flickering. I can't risk you. And just like that, he faded into my shadow, leaving me standing alone beneath the lanterns, my heart aching with everything he wouldn't let himself say. Above me, the lanterns drifted higher, carrying wishes into the night. I wished for him. Chapter 7. I didn't sleep after the lantern festival. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dexter's face in the glow of the lanterns, the longing in his expression, the way he'd stepped back from me like he was afraid of his own desire. By morning, my chest felt tight with everything we hadn't said, everything he wouldn't let himself feel. I tried to lose myself in work, but even the familiar comfort of melting wax and warm scents couldn't settle me. My hands shook as I poured a batch of lavender candles, and I kept glancing toward the corner where Dexter usually appeared, half hoping, half dreading he'd show himself. But he didn't, not until the light outside dimmed and the fog thickened against the windows. I lit a candle on the counter, and the flame flared high, bending sharply toward the door. My breath caught Dexter. He rose from my shadow slowly, but something was wrong. His form flickered, unstable, like a flame fighting against wind. His eyes glowed brighter than usual, too bright, and the shadows around him trembled like they were afraid. "Dexter," I whispered, stepping toward him. "What's happening?" He didn't answer. Instead, he moved in front of me so quickly it made the air ripple. His body, or the shadow of it, expanded, stretching tall and wide, forming a barrier between me and the door. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice low and sharp. My heart lurched. Why? What's out there? Before he could answer, the candles on the shelves flickered violently, their flames bending toward the windows. The shadows in the corners of the shop thickened, pooling like ink. The air grew cold, heavy, electric. Then I saw them, figures tall, thin, regal, forming from the darkness outside. Their shapes were sharper than Dexter's, their edges jagged, their eyes glowing like fractured moonlight. They didn't walk so much as glide, their forms shifting with every step. Dexter's voice dropped to a growl I'd never heard from him. "The Shadow Court." My breath hitched. "The what?" "They've come for me," he said, "and for you." The tallest figure stepped forward, its voice layered and echoing, like multiple people speaking at once. "Light-bearer," it said, addressing me directly, "we have come to witness the bond." I stumbled back, my pulse racing. I don't know what you're talking about." Dexter moved closer, shadows swirling around him like armor. "Leave her alone." The court ignored him completely. Another figure tilted its head, studying me with eerie fascination. "Her light is strong, stronger than yours ever was, Prince." A Dexter stiffened, his form flickering with anger. "She is not yours to judge. She is not yours to protect," the court replied. I felt a strange pull in my chest, a tugging sensation, like invisible fingers brushing against my heart. I gasped, clutching the edge of the counter. "Dexter." He spun toward me instantly, his expression breaking. "Don't look at them. Don't listen. They're trying to draw you in. I swallowed hard. I feel something pulling me." The court's voices rose in unison, soft and hypnotic. "The throne is weakening. It seeks a ruler. It seeks balance. It seeks light." Dexter stepped between us again, his form expanding until he blocked them completely. "You will not take her." The court's eyes glowed brighter. "The throne chooses its own." A cold shiver ran through me. "Dexter, what does that mean?" He didn't answer. He just reached back blindly, his hand hovering near mine, trembling with the effort to stay solid. I lifted my hand toward his, and though we didn't touch, the space between us hummed with desperate, aching energy. The court began to fade, their forms dissolving into the fog outside, but their final words lingered in the air like a curse. "The throne is watching. The throne is waiting." When they vanished completely, Dexter sagged, his form flickering weakly. I rushed to him, my voice shaking. "Dexter, talk to me. What does this mean? Why are they interested in me?" He looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on him before. Fear. "The bond is stronger than I realized," he whispered, "and the kingdom it's reaching for you." My breath trembled. "Why me?" His voice broke. "Because your light is calling to them, and they want it." I stared at him, my heart pounding, the weight of the court's words pressing down on me. The throne chooses its own, and for the first time I understood the truth. This wasn't just about Dexter's curse anymore. This was about me. Chapter 8. The days after the Shadow Court's visit felt like walking through a dream I couldn't wake from. Dexter stayed close, more protective than ever, his form flickering with tension every time a candle flame bent in a direction it shouldn't. I could feel the fear in him, even when he tried to hide it. It clung to him like a second shadow. By the time the next evening fell, the weight of everything unsaid pressed so heavily on my chest that I could barely breathe. I found him in the shop, standing near the counter, his form dimmer than usual, as if the shadows themselves were draining him. "Dexter," I said quietly, "we need to talk." He turned toward me, and the look in his eyes made my heart twist. "I know." I stepped closer, my hands trembling. "You've been avoiding the truth, all of it, and I can't keep pretending I don't feel what I feel." He flinched, shadows rippling across his form. "Mandy, no," I said, my voice breaking. "You don't get to shut me out. Not now. Not after everything." He looked away, jaw tight. "I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" I demanded. "From your kingdom, from your curse, from yourself." His form flickered violently, like a flame caught in a storm. "From the throne," he whispered, "from the fate it wants to force on you." I stared at him, my pulse racing. "Dexter, I don't care about the throne. I care about you." He closed his eyes, pain etched into every line of his shadowed face. "And that is exactly what terrifies me." Before I could answer, the candles around us flickered, not gently, but violently, as if struck by a sudden wind. The air thickened, humming with a low, ominous vibration. Dexter's head snapped up. "No," he breathed. "Not now." A cold wave swept through the shop, extinguishing half the candles in an instant. The shadows on the walls stretched, twisting into long, claw-like shapes. My heart lurched. "Dexter." He moved in front of me so fast the air rippled. "Stay behind me." The remaining candles flared, their flames bending toward the center of the room. The shadows gathered, swirling like a vortex. I felt the pull again, that strange, invisible tug deep in my chest, stronger than ever before. I gasped, clutching my heart. "It's happening again." Dexter grabbed my shoulders, his hands almost solid from the surge of magic. "Look at me, only me." "I can't." My voice broke as the pull intensified, dragging at something inside me. "You can," he insisted, his voice fierce and desperate. "Stay with me, Mandy. Stay with me." The shadows roared, a sound like wind and whispers, and something ancient waking from sleep. The air crackled with power, the room shook, and in that moment, in the chaos, in the fear, in the overwhelming pull of something bigger than both of us, the truth tore out of me. "I love you," I cried, the words ripped from my soul. Dexter froze, his eyes widened, glowing brighter than I'd ever seen. "Mandy, I love you," I said again, tears spilling down my cheeks. "I don't care about the throne or the kingdom or the curse. I love you." His form flickered, then steadied, becoming more solid than ever before. He reached for me, really reached, and for the first time, his hand didn't pass through mine. He touched me, warm, real, trembling. "Mandy," he whispered, voice breaking, "I love you. I've loved you since the moment you lit that candle." The room exploded with light. The candles flared, their flames shooting upward in brilliant, blinding bursts. The shadows roared, swirling around us like a storm. The floor trembled beneath my feet. Dexter pulled me against him, holding me as if he could shield me from the world itself. Then everything went black. Silence swallowed the room. No light, no sound, no breath, just darkness. And then nothing. Chapter 9. Darkness held me like a weightless ocean, silent, endless, swallowing every sense. For a moment I wasn't sure if I was breathing. I wasn't sure if I existed. Then, slowly, a soft glow began to pulse somewhere far away, like a heartbeat calling me back. I reached for it. Light bloomed around me, gentle and silver, washing over my skin like moonlight. I gasped, air rushing into my lungs as if I'd been underwater. When my vision cleared, I found myself lying on a smooth, shimmering surface that looked like glass, but felt warm beneath my palms. I pushed myself upright, my breath catching in my throat. I wasn't in my shop. I wasn't anywhere I recognized. A vast landscape stretched around me, a world made entirely of twilight. The sky was a deep indigo, streaked with silver mist that drifted like living ribbons. Shadows moved across the ground like slow, graceful creatures, their forms shifting and dissolving into the air. The air hummed with a soft, melodic vibration, like distant chimes. "Where am I?" I whispered. A warm hand touched my shoulder. I turned, and my heart nearly stopped. Dexter knelt beside me, but he wasn't a shadow. He was solid. Fully, breathtakingly solid. His skin was warm bronze, his eyes a deep, luminous silver that reflected the twilight around us. His hair fell in soft, dark waves around his face. He looked human, beautiful, real, Mandy. He breathed, his voice thick with emotion. "You're awake?" I stared at him, unable to speak. My hand lifted on instinct, trembling as I reached toward his face. This time, when my fingers touched his cheek, they didn't pass through him. His skin was warm beneath my touch, smooth and alive. "You're real," I whispered, tears burning my eyes. "Dexter, you're real." He closed his eyes, leaning into my touch like he'd been starving for it. "Your confession, it broke the curse. I'm mortal now, because of you." I let out a shaky laugh, overwhelmed. "I can't believe this. I can't." But then I saw it. My hand, it glowed. A soft, silver light pulsed beneath my skin, spreading up my arm like liquid moonlight. I jerked back, staring at myself in horror. "Dexter, what's happening to me?" His expression shattered. "Mandy," he whispered, reaching for me. "I'm so sorry." A low rumble echoed across the twilight plain. I turned toward the sound and froze. A massive structure rose in the distance, carved from shadow and light. It wasn't a building. It wasn't a throne room. It was a throne. A colossal, ancient throne made of swirling darkness and glowing veins of silver. It pulsed like a living heart, each beat sending ripples through the air. And with every pulse, the light inside me responded, tugging, pulling, calling. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "No, no, no." Dexter grabbed my hands, his grip warm and desperate. "Listen to me. The throne, it's choosing you." My breath hitched. "Choosing me for what?" "To rule," he said, his voice breaking. "To take the place I refused, to become the light the kingdom needs." I stumbled back, my glowing hands trembling. "But you said love would make you mortal. You said—" "I believed it," he said, anguish twisting his features. "I wanted to believe it, but the prophecy, we misunderstood it." The throne pulsed again, louder, stronger. The light inside me surged in response, pulling me toward it. "Dexter," I whispered, tears spilling down my cheeks. "I don't want this." He cupped my face in his hands, his touch warm and real and heartbreaking. I know, Mandy, but the throne doesn't choose based on desire. It chooses based on need. And it needs me." My voice cracked. He nodded, his forehead pressing against mine. "You are light, warmth, balance, everything the Shadow Kingdom has been starving for." I shook my head, sobbing. "I'm just a candle maker." "No," he whispered fiercely, "you are so much more." The throne's call intensified, a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through my bones. My body moved involuntarily, my feet sliding forward as if drawn by invisible strings. "Dexter." I reached for him, terrified. He grabbed my hand, holding on with everything he had. "I won't let you face this alone." But even as he said it, I felt the truth. This wasn't his choice. It was mine, and the throne was waiting. Chapter 10. The throne's pull grew stronger with every breath I took. It was like standing in the tide, each wave dragging me forward, stealing a little more of my strength. Dexter held my hand tightly, but even his warmth couldn't stop the inevitable. The silver light inside me pulsed in time with the throne's heartbeat, calling me, claiming me. "I can't do this," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Dexter, I can't be what it wants." He cupped my face in both hands, his touch warm and desperate. "You don't have to choose it," He said fiercely, "You can go home, you can walk away. But can I?" I asked, tears blurring my vision. "Can I really leave, or will it just keep pulling me back?" He closed his eyes, pain twisting his features. "If you leave, you'll always feel the call. It won't stop, not for you." My breath hitched. So my choices are to go home and be haunted forever, or stay and become something I don't understand. He opened his eyes, and the raw emotion in them nearly broke me. "I don't want you to stay because you feel trapped. I want you to stay because you choose me." I reached up, brushing my fingers along his jaw. "I do choose you. That's the one thing I'm sure of." He leaned into my touch, his forehead resting against mine. "Then let me take your place," he whispered. "Let me face the throne. Let me no." I pulled back sharply, shaking my head. "Dexter, you already sacrificed everything once. I won't let you do it again." He looked at me with a kind of helpless devotion that made my heart ache. "Then what do we do?" I turned toward the throne. It towered above us, ancient and alive, its surface shifting like liquid shadow, threaded with veins of silver light. It wasn't menacing, not exactly. It felt expectant, like it had been waiting centuries for someone to answer its call. And somehow, impossibly, I knew what I had to do. "I'm going to reshape it," I said softly. Dexter stared at me. "Mandy, you can't, I can," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. "Light doesn't destroy darkness. It transforms it. That's what my candles do. That's what I do." The throne pulsed, responding to my words. Dexter grabbed my hand again. "If you take the throne's power, it will change you." I squeezed his fingers. "Then let it. I'm not afraid of becoming something new." He shook his head, voice breaking. "I am." I stepped closer to him, lifting his hand to my heart. "Dexter, I'm not leaving you, not in any world." His breath shuddered out of him. "Then I'm with you, whatever happens." I nodded, tears slipping down my cheeks. Together, hand in hand, we walked toward the throne. The air thickened with magic, swirling around us in ribbons of shadow and light. The silver glow inside me flared brighter, illuminating the twilight realm. The throne responded, its surface rippling like water, touched by wind. When we reached it, I let go of Dexter's hand only for a moment, and placed my palm against the throne. Light exploded outward, warm, brilliant, blinding. It surged through me, filling every corner of my being, merging with the shadows in a perfect, impossible harmony. I felt the kingdom's heartbeat. I felt its hunger, its loneliness, its longing for balance, and I gave it what it needed: warmth, compassion, light. The shadows softened, the silver brightened, the throne transformed beneath my touch, reshaping itself into something new, something balanced, something whole. When the light finally dimmed, I stood before it changed, not human, not shadow, something in between. Something meant to rule. Dexter stared at me, awe and love shining in his eyes. "Mandy, you're radiant." I stepped toward him, my new form shimmering like moonlit flame. "I'm still me," I whispered, "just more." He reached for me, and this time, when our hands met, the connection was perfect, warm, solid, real. "What happens now?" he asked softly. I looked at the throne, my throne, and then back at him. "Now, we build a bridge between your world and mine, between shadow and light." He smiled, a real, breathtaking smile, and us. I wrapped my arms around him, pulling him close. We ruled together. The twilight around us brightened, the kingdom shifting in response to our union. Shadows softened, light bloomed, balance settled over the realm like a warm blanket. And as Dexter held me, his heartbeat steady against mine, I knew with absolute certainty I wasn't just the queen of shadows. I was the queen of light, and I had chosen this fate, chosen him, with my whole heart.